Now, you probably all know that Judaism, unlike other religions, is a religion that is based primarily on deeds, things that we do, not things that we think about doing. So other religions deal mainly with dogma and creeds. Judaism deals with action and deeds. 99% of our religion is governed by what we call the book of Jewish law, the Shulchan Aruch, which was a development and the end results of literally thousands of years of scholarship and of debating and of arguing and of deciding and of updating various laws within Judaism until this book called the Shulchan Aruch, which translates as the set table, because then you don't have to go looking into the sources exactly what to do. This book basically tells you how to live your life. It's primarily broken down into various number of volumes, and that governs a Jewish person. Traditionally, if you want to be observant, one follows the code of Jewish law. That's basically what it's called, the code of Jewish law. For a newly observant person, navigating through Judaism can be very difficult, because when you're new to it and you come into a situation where people have already done this for a number of years, it looks overwhelming, confusing, difficult. It could be really, really, really something that's a turn off for many people, because you don't want to get involved because you'll never be able to catch up. Because there are people that are what we call FFBs, from birth. Myself, for example. From birth means basically that you're observant from the day that you were born. Meaning my parents were observant, and I use the word observant kind of to equate orthodoxy, although not always the same, but pretty much that observant is really another word for orthodox. And so, you grow up orthodox, and then you take many of the things we do for granted. And the problem for someone that's an FFB is to keep it fresh, because many of the rituals then become stale and become rote and mechanical because you've done it so many times. Someone that's new to observance, someone that's just coming in and looking through the window, it's very exciting. We never done this. It looks great, but once you come into the room, into the tent that you're invited, it looks wow. These guys are just now I'm never going to be able to catch up. So I figured, really this course really should be probably 10 or 12 or 15 lessons long, but we'll start off with 2. We'll start this week and next week, and we'll see how it goes. If it works well, and we see that we want to continue, there's always, when no one's going anywhere, we'll pick it up at a later date. What I wanted to do was to take some of the basic things that we do within traditional Judaism and go over it. Now, this is not a class of thou must follow what I say. I just want to show you what things that we do to give you maybe a little bit of a better understanding of what orthodoxy or what traditional Judaism is really all about. And I thought that we would start with the prayer book. Now, this is not a class to teach you how to pray. That you have to take Rabbi Boros' class, which is on Wednesday night, which is Mastering Jewish Prayer. Here is just, I want to run through the daily life of what an observant person would do practically as they wake up in the morning through the morning prayers. Okay? We believe, I think we can all be in agreement to this, that a Jew is made up of 2 parts. Okay? Body and soul, that come together to form the human being. The body, we all know. It has flesh, it has sinews, we know we can measure it, we can weigh it, unfortunately, all of these things, that's part of what we call materialism and in a materialistic physical world. At the same time, the drive that's within each and every one of us, the life force, as we call it, in Hebrew is called the neshama, the soul. The soul is the thing that drives us to do good things. Do a good deed, be a better person, be a follower of the code of Jewish law, all of these things. Now, when a person goes to sleep at night, they rest their head, they put their head down. It's not only that we're trying to rest in a physical sense, we're also resting in a spiritual sense. Meaning that at the time when our body is asleep, our soul, or at least part of our soul ascends up to heaven, goes up to heaven. And the rumor is, or at least the belief is, that up in heaven it gets rejuvenated. You know, when it gets a cleansing and it gets a vitamins and it, whatever it does up in heaven, so that in the morning when you open up your eyes, what that symbolizes or that signifies is that the soul has come into the body. So you wake up and hopefully you're refreshed. You're refreshed. Okay. So the first thing that a Jew does in the morning when they wake up, before anything else, and here's where practice and training come in, because a normal person doesn't generally do this, is we say a little prayer. And the prayer that we say, which is found on the page 1, now if you wanted to go back to the back of the room and get a book to follow along with me, maybe we should take a 30-second break for everyone to, very good. So we open up to page number 5. Okay, page number 5. Okay, we start really at the beginning. This we're never going to do in part of a service, because this is all done at home. As soon as you wake up in the morning, first thing you do, Moda'ani. Moda'ani is the first prayer that a Jew says. And if you want to understand why, just let's read the translation. I offer thanks to you, living and eternal King, for you have mercifully restored my soul within me. Your faithfulness is great. Now here the key word I find always very interesting is you have mercifully restored my soul within me. Now we're not talking theology, because this is really not a class about theology, but if you think about it, what you're basically saying is that God had a choice. You had a choice, because mercy is something that you extend to someone that needs mercy extended to them. Who needs mercy? Someone that's fallen down, someone that's down and out, someone's in the hospital. So you don't think about so much about a person who's well needing mercy, but it says you mercifully, because God did have a choice in whether He should restore the soul or not. He gave it back to us. Therefore, the first thing we do in the morning is we thank Him. Now, there are, in Judaism, and this is going to be a key word that's going to come up over and over again, different customs. Okay? Now, what is a custom? A custom is an act that was instituted at a particular place and a particular time that was generally not accepted by everybody all over within Judaism. Now, some customs are accepted by everybody within Judaism. And then there are those which have a particular time and a particular place. So some people might do it one way, and some people might do it another way. That also gets a little bit confusing. So some people, when we call them up to the Torah on Saturday, some people might start the blessing one way, some people might do the blessing another way. That all depends upon where you grew up, which geographical area, with what time period that came in. We don't want to get that technical, because then we'll just get bogged down and we'll never get past the Moda'ani. But for all intents and purposes, we're going to be talking about the Chabad custom of doing things. Because we are in a Chabad shul, I happen to be a Chabad rabbi, so it makes sense. It makes sense to do that, right? Now, here is where some people have the custom of putting our hands together. So when you say the Moda'ani, you put your hands together and offer, don't fold them like this, but just put your hands together while you're laying in bed and offer up the prayer of Moda'ani. Now, if you don't know the Moda'ani, let's say you haven't memorized it by heart, so you write it out, whether you can read it in Hebrew or in English, and you say it. Now here's again a question that comes up often: can I pray in English? And the answer is yes. Better, of course, is to pray in Hebrew, because Hebrew is the language of God, the holy, Lashon HaKodesh. It's called the holy tongue. So it's better to pray in Hebrew. This is one language that connects all Jews throughout the entire world. But if you can't, if it's going to be a question of should you say it or not, you say it in the English. So the first thing you've done in the morning is we've thanked God. Now, Kabbalah has it that while your soul has departed from the body, while it's left the body, what happens to the body? The body becomes impure. An impurity kind of settles. Just like, for example, even though we're not dead, but we're like partially dead because we don't know what's going on around us, we have no idea. So what happens is that when the body wakes up, most of the impurity automatically sails away. It goes away, except for our fingertips. It remains on our fingertips, okay? So the next thing we're going to want to do, and this is again a custom that many people have, is they put a basin of water next to their bed. Because as soon as you're finished saying Moda'ani and you get off the bed, what you want to do is you want to wash your hands. Because you want to get the impurity off of your fingertips. And how do you wash your hand? So you take the basin in your left hand, pour it once on your right, then once on your left. Now, that's very different than what we're going to do later on when we come to talking about a meal. We're going to do it differently. But for right now, as we're getting the impurity off of our hands, one on the right, left, right, left, right, left. So 6 times. So you don't want to fill up like a Dixie cup of 3 ounces. If you're going to do it next to your bed with a basin, you should get yourself like a pitcher, and on that pitcher, 1, 2, 3. Now, have prepared a towel, obviously, so you could wipe your hands. Now, once you've done that, you're free to move about the cabin. But as long as you haven't washed your hands, it says you shouldn't walk 4 cubits. Better not to walk 4 cubits. Now, if you're not going to take that custom of putting a basin next to your bed, what you should do is immediately after saying Moda'ani, proceed immediately either to the bathroom or to the kitchen and wash what we call, in Yiddish, it's called Negelwasser. Negel meaning the fingertips of water. Water to get rid of the impurity of the fingertips. Okay? That's that. Now you're ready to begin the day. Okay? Now there is this idea that everything that we do now is we're like a new person. Because every day we wake up in the morning, we feel new, we feel exuberant, we feel excited, or we should be. We should be. Many of us probably don't, but we should be. So therefore, everything that we're experiencing as a Jew is new. So every time we walk, we're able to walk. We're able to stand upright. We're able to dress ourselves. We have shoes. We have sight. All of these things are new experiences to us. And that causes us to do what? Thank whom? God. So that's what a Jew does. Upon waking and dressing, so we get dressed, and then when we crack open the book before we eat anything, and we say what we say is the morning blessings. The morning blessings are done at home, in the privacy of your own home. We haven't yet gone to shul yet. We're still in the house. So you'll notice all of the blessings. Now it's interesting because in the olden days, they only said these blessings when they actually did the act. So when they heard the rooster crowing, they said, "Blessed is the Lord who gave the rooster wisdom." When they went to the bathroom, they blessed God for opening up all of the necessary stuff in the stomach and make sure everything works properly. You say that blessing. They thank God. We don't. Usually what happens is we wash our hands for Negelwasser, we go to the bathroom, do our thing. When we come out of the bathroom, we get dressed and say the morning blessings. Now we're not going to go over the morning blessings, each one, because I figure, you should have a siddur at home. You should have a siddur at home. Therefore, one of the things you do in the morning, and I think that prayer, to be honest with you, I think is so important, not to go through the whole book necessarily, because there's a lot. I mean, the morning prayers is like 90 pages, 85 pages. I'm not saying go through 85 pages in the morning, because it can take a long time. You won't be able to make breakfast for yourself. You'll be late to work. But at least you pick and choose that which you feel is important to you. And the morning blessings is a good place to start, if any. Why do I say it's important to do this? Because we all know that during the day, we're going to be involved in so many different projects. Things with our family, things with our children, things with our job, things with our personal life. Issues that are just going to make us so tumult during the day that we're not going to have time really for ourselves. So in order to get the day going on the right foot with a positive, concrete attitude, that's why the morning prayers were instituted. So that, so we know, whatever challenge God is going to throw to us that day, we're going to be able to take it because we're walking with the Almighty, and we've thanked the Almighty, and God is with us, and we're ready to move on. Okay? Now, some challenges, to be honest with you, are going to be tough. And you're going to forget about blessed are you, or moida'ani, or thanks for letting me go to the bathroom, or thanks for giving me shoes, and all of that stuff. By 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you'll have forgotten what you said at 7 o'clock in the morning. That's okay. Because you know what? There's always a tomorrow, right? There's always a tomorrow. So if during the day you become so depressed or so down or so whatever, it's okay. That's part of the vicissitudes of being a human being. But at least in the morning you want to give yourself a fighting chance. Because if you don't, if the first thing you do, you pop out of bed, you go right to breakfast, then you're on the phone, I think you need to take time out just for reflection. Take a deep breath, say the prayers, whether it takes 5 minutes or 25 minutes or an hour and 25 minutes, it doesn't matter. Take that 5 minutes for yourself, but you have to be, Judaism is going to teach you, and you're going to notice, you're going to see that the more we talk about rituals and practical rituals, you're going to have to be disciplined. See, that's the key. Judaism gave us these rules and regulations in order to keep us in the short and narrow. Because why? Because it's so easy to get lost in today's world. It's so easy to lose oneself. So these rules and regulations, focus, keep thinking about God, keep working towards that goal. That's what this is all about. And if we get through the day, well, as we'll see, as we get through the day, we'll have thought about God a number of different times, at least 100 times during the day. Why do I say 100? Because there's going to be 100 blessings that we're going to make during the day. 100 times we are going to say, blessed are you, O Lord. And the reason why we do that is in order to remind ourselves and to keep us straight. Because there's so many things that we need to accomplish during that day that at night we're exhausted just from living as a Jew. Forget about everything else that we do. It's all of these blessings and thank you, go on. But that's the purpose of all of these things, to remind us never to take anything for granted, right? Never ever take anything for granted, because today we're here, and even though we say there's always a tomorrow, but there's not always going to be a tomorrow. Sometime, during our life, 120 years, we're going to have to close our eyes, and then we're not going to wake up to say the Moida'ani. Okay? Now, once we've started that, and you can, okay? Is everything okay? All right. Hey, we'll get through it. Once you've already gone through the blessings, you will notice that there's also blessings that we talk about, study of Torah, and of the greatness of God giving the Torah to us. That's all part of this idea of trying to get ready and to hit the road running, as we say. So whatever we're going to do it with a smile and an enthusiasm and a great motivation. Okay? Even though we may not feel like it, we may wake up in the morning and not feel ready to say Moida'ani. But you see what Moida'ani does? What does it do? It pushes you out. I'm telling you, the rituals and the practical aspects of Judaism are our coach. Think of it as a coach that, it's getting you up, it's getting you going, it's getting you excited, it's motivating you. You have to get out there. Don't slouch. Don't do it. Now, there's going to be times when you're going to say, oh, come on. Here's again Modani, but I don't feel like Modani. I don't feel like thanking God. I don't feel like doing all of these things. Great. Who cares what you feel like? Right? Emotions never play a part in practical Judaism. Right? Just like you may be angry at God. So what? Who cares? You're not going to say your prayers in the morning. You're going to say your prayers even if you're angry at God. Even if you're disappointed with yesterday's results. Tomorrow, if you're a staunch Republican, you may wake up in the morning tomorrow feeling very discombobulated of what's going to be going on tonight. So you may be angry in the morning when you look at the results of what happened. Okay, you know what? The sun will rise tomorrow, right? It's going to get up. Don't worry about it. The United States will still be here, and you still have to say Maidani. Right? You still have to say, thank you, Lord, for giving me all of these things. Now we're ready for prayer itself. So once already all of these things, you've dressed, you've washed your hands, you've said the morning prayers. Now, if you have time to actually say some more prayers, great. If you don't, go to your breakfast, eat the breakfast. But it is still important to say the Shema, because we haven't hit the Shema yet. You'll notice in the morning prayers there's no Shema whatsoever. There are during the the morning prayers. The morning prayers, you'll have to read yourself. The first part basically talks about how wonderful it is to be Jewish and how great you are and how special we are and our relationship. It's like a love match. Oh, your God, you're so great and you're so wonderful. And you know what, look how much we did for you. And remember Abraham sacrificed Isaac for you. And remember all of those great people that have done all those things for you. And you know, we're so happy to be Jewish. Now, why were prayers instituted? And how did prayers get instituted? Okay? Biblically, there's nowhere in the Bible that says thou shalt pray. It just doesn't say it. There's no such thing. What there is called avodah shebelev, service of the heart. Now when we look around and we say, what is a service of a heart versus what? Service of the mind. So service of the mind, we understand it to be study. The study of Torah. Service of the heart is more about your needs and how you get connected to the God Almighty. So it's if you're going to study Torah, you connect through your head. By prayer, where do you connect from? Your heart. So every day a Jew woke up 3,000 years ago or 2,500 years ago, before the Siddur was written, he got up and he said, rub, 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 thanks for the grub. Hey God, let's get going, baby. We're ready to hit the road. Right? You could make up your own prayer. Thank you very much, God. My goat is very sick. I'd like to ask you to please heal my goat. You know, or the cow is really pregnant. Today would be a great day for her to deliver, or whatever it is. The chickens haven't been laying the big eggs anymore, or I need my plow is broken. That's what a person would pray for. Very, very, very personal, because there was no ritual prayer. You prayed what you wanted to pray about. That was it. Later on, when people forgot how to pray and needs changed and Jews were exiled into many different countries, the rabbis decided that they're going to write a prayer book and do that, and pray. Okay. So the first part of the prayer is all about our connection to God. The second part of the prayers is saying the Shema, and the Shema, of course, is this whole idea of monotheism, of connecting ourselves with the one God and proclaiming to the entire world, to everybody that wants to listen to us, that God is the great God. Now, I'm not going to go into every detail about prayer because we're going to be here for forever, and we're going to do that. But when it comes to the Shema, first of all, you follow along all the instructions of the prayer book, so I don't have to tell you what this is, where to stand, where to sit, where to go. Now, all of that stuff, we always have trouble in our shul, because there's always a few guys that like to stand when I don't tell them to stand, sit when I don't tell them to sit. You follow along in the prayer books. Why are there some prayers that we stand and some prayers that we sit? It's an obvious question, because some of them have placed more importance. Like, for example, on the Baruch Shamar prayer or the Yishtabach prayer, whatever it is you're going to find in the book, obviously there was importance to that prayer. It talks about whatever it talks about. So we stand. The Shema is interesting. We don't stand. We actually do not stand for the Shema, and it's more than that. It tells us in the Kabbalah, you should sit for the Shema prayer. Sit. Isn't that interesting? Why? Because we want a person to feel completely at ease when we're saying this prayer. And it's the one prayer during the day that you are going to need complete devotion, and you have to be in tuned to what you're saying. See, the rest of the prayers, when you get up in the morning and you're really tired, oh yeah, where was I? And you keep going. That's okay. You can do the whole prayer system just like that, without concentration. But when we get to the Shema, it's very different. At that point in the prayers, please turn to page 42. Okay? Please turn to 42. I have often talked about this in Shul. The one time, and the one time only, that we need complete concentration and to be in tune is the Shema. So what we do is, take off your glasses or leave your glasses on. We cover our eyes, as I've said this 1,000,000 times in our Shul, and we say, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. That's a very good idea, to learn those 6 words by heart. I think that's not too hard to ask, in Hebrew. Everyone should know this by now. I mean, if you've gone to Hebrew school, you say the Shema. You cover your eyes. for the first verse. Why? Because that's the only mitzvah in the Torah that we debated that needs concentration to be able to perform the mitzvah. See, if you walk past a building and someone's blowing the shofar, and you didn't intend to listen to the shofar, but you heard the shofar, have you fulfilled your obligation? Yes, you have. The only Shema. If you just say Shema and you're thinking about Hawaii, no. You have to concentrate and remember the words. Hear, O Israel, God our Lord, the God is one. That is it. Okay? The rest of it, you say now. So if I'm starting out as a practical Jew, in the morning, what I would do is, I would say the morning blessings and skip to page 42. Okay? Unless you have a lot of time. If you have a lot of time, then do whatever you want. But I'm talking about people who have to get to work in the morning, who don't, who don't have time, have little kids maybe, they have to get off to school, or who are pulling on their skirt, or whatever it is. You don't have time to sit page 1 through 42. Get to the Shema. Now, once you say the Shema, and you get through the first paragraph, which everyone should learn and practice this if you have to, you're going to skip to what we call the Amidah. The Amidah is the moment in the morning when we are at the height of getting ready. We talked about this build-up of excitement. The Amidah is already at the top point, where we're already excited. And we say to ourselves, okay, we're ready to bond and to ask our needs. What are our needs? What are our needs? You can't answer that question. You know why? Because everybody in this room has different needs. Some people who are in business need business. We need customers. So what do we say? Please, God in heaven, send us customers. Some people in this room need healing, physical and spiritual healing. So what do we say? Please heal us. Some people in this room need to find a good match. So what do we say? Send us the right girl or guy. Some people in this room might, need help us raise our children better. Some people in this room might say, repair our relationship with our parents. Some people in the room would say, please get rid of my boss. Some people in this room may say, get rid of the rabbi. Some people in this room might say, whatever. I'm just saying, not this rabbi. Some rabbi I'm saying, not this rabbi. So all of these things, when is the proper time for you now to approach God with your needs? Not when you're saying Moidani, not when you're thanking Him for giving you shoes or giving you sight or giving you the physical ability to continue in life. No, not then. Only after proclaiming Him as the Lord and subserviating yourself to Him, now it's the proper time to say, God, I want you to listen to me because I need you to do me a big, big, big favor, a huge favor. And that I need this and this and this and this, and that's the time to do it. So this takes a little bit, this takes preparation. Because you know what? Most people, if I said to you now, okay, I want you to say a prayer of your needs, you wouldn't be able to do it. You would not be able to do it. Why? You'd have to think about it. Till you get the words ready, till you're comfortable, till you're lucid, all of these things. That's why it's a build-up. That's why prayer is like climbing a ladder. It's not jumping into a pool. It's actually climbing a ladder. Each rung is another step. Each rung is another page. Each rung is another moment of understanding until we get to the top rung when now we're ready to approach God and to ask Him for our daily needs. You see, people who don't prepare are not going to be able to do it. They're just not. Because if I tell you now, I want you to get up here and give a speech, what are you going to say? I don't know about, what about? I want you to talk about the migration of the lemmings. Now, migration of the lemons? No, I don't know if lemons have migration. No, the lemmings. Okay? So then you're going to have to think about it. You're going to have to prepare for it. You're going to have to do some research on it. Why is it any different doing that? There's no difference. But we think that we can immediately come into prayer and we immediately are ready to go. No, it's not true. We're not. We first have to get our minds and hearts in sync. When our minds and hearts are in sync, then we can approach God. Then we could say to Him our daily needs, our daily affirmations, our daily needs, whatever we do. God is great, God is wonderful. You butter Him up a little bit during the Amidah. Remember our forefathers and Abraham and Isaac and all the great things they did for you. But, by the way, God, I need understanding. I need you to give me courage Because courage is a very difficult thing. Because we're going to go out in the world and sometimes we're afraid. We're afraid, we don't know what battles to fight. You know, we have a terrible boss or we have a terrible employee. What do? Do we confront them? Do we not confront them? Give me the courage. Give me the understanding to understand which battles to fight and give me the courage to fight those battles. You see, most of us, I have to be honest with you, are chickens. Most of us are chickens. We would like not to have confrontation. We don't want confrontation. So we go to this side, we go to that side. We'll do everything we can not to confront our issues. You, God, grant us wisdom to understand where to plow forward and when to retreat, when to be silent and when to speak up. See, wisdom is a tremendous attribute. If you have it, there are some people who are born with it, some people need to acquire it. It takes training. You're asking God, the first thing you want to do is to get that understanding. Sometimes we need to confront them. Sometimes avoiding an issue is only going to exasperate that issue. It's only going to make that issue harder to deal with in the future. So practically in the morning, what we're actually saying, in a very practical sense, is give me the understanding of how to run my life. How to do it. Because believe me, 90% of all of our problems is because we haven't thought it through. Or we haven't asked someone to think it through with us. Or we haven't asked God for guidance. Once God shows you that guidance, then you know how to go right or left. The problem is we don't listen. Someone asked me this question a couple of days ago. He said, how would you explain to a 5-year-old child when they ask you, you tell us, teacher, to speak to God, but he doesn't answer? I said, you're wrong. He does answer, but he answers in very different terms. He doesn't answer in English. He doesn't even answer in Hebrew, but he answers in the way we deal with other people of what happens. A little kid, what do they need? A candy, right? They speak to God and they would like a candy. And then all of a sudden the teacher approached them. Who would like a candy? Look at that. God just spoke to you. God just answered your needs. Or I really got to go to the bathroom, teacher. And then all of a sudden the bell rings for recess. God just answered your prayer. So God does talk to little children as well as he talks to us. You know what the problem with that is? We don't listen. We don't hear. See, God is sending us the message. You bump into people that can help you all the time, and we don't even take advantage of it. We might need to hear a good word. We might need an uplifting message, and we don't. We don't do it because what do? We like to avoid anything and just live lives of happy idiots. That's all we want to do. Just walk around smiling and be oblivious to everything else. So a wise man once said, if you want to feel good about the day, what you do is write 10 things that you need to do every day. 10 things you need to do every day. And you know what you start with? The hardest. The hardest one you put at the top of the list to do. And then the second hardest, the third hardest. You know why? By 10 o'clock in the morning, you'll feel that you've accomplished so much, and it's only 10 o'clock in the morning. But if you put the hardest at number 10, what's going to happen? By 5 o'clock, you're going to have to confront that employee. Are you in the mood at 5 o'clock to confront that employee? Sure, you chose new drapes for the office, and you bought a new coffee machine, and you brought in the syrup, you brought the sugar up to par, and you even got some sweet low. Great. You did great today. You've really spruced up the office. But the employee, the one that's not letting you move ahead in life, you haven't dealt with them. At 4:30, you're in no position to do that. When are you in a position to do that? 9 o'clock in the morning, when you come into the office. Hardest thing, deal with first. Second hardest thing, deal with second. You have to deal with it. And that's why we pray. We pray to God to give us courage, give us wisdom, give us understanding, give us the knowledge and the foresight and the fortitude to be able to do it. Practical. It's very, very practical things that we do. Now we finished the prayers. Okay? We're done with praying. So now we got up at 7 o'clock. We said the Moda'ani. We got ourselves going. We washed our hands. We got dressed. We said the morning blessings. We said the Shema. We said the Amidah. And there's, you could go through the prayer book because there's another 80 pages of morning prayers, which I'm not going to go to. Now, for men, traditionally it's a little bit different because within traditional Judaism or in Orthodoxy, let's say, the role of the prayer and the role of the women and men were different. Men were expected to go pray in a temple. Women were expected to pray at home. Why was that brought? Why did those roles? Well, because traditionally it's always been the mother that have raised the children. So the rabbis gave them, quote unquote, a break. So you don't have to go to temple, you don't have to put on a prayer shawl, you don't have to put on tefillin, you don't go do all of these things. These things are given over to the men. The men have that kind of a responsibility. Women pray at home, raise the children, do the children, whatever they do, educate the children, send them off to school. Well, the guys go. But since we're in a class that is predominantly women, we'll stick with the women aspect. If any of the guys have any questions, you can always ask me, but we'll stick to the women. So we finished our prayer. We finished praying. We're now ready to eat breakfast. Now you may think, oh, thank God, I'm starving already. We've already, it's so long, I got to get to breakfast. Now, we think already, hey, you know what? I've done my praying. Now the rest of the day is up to me. No, sorry. It only starts now. Because there is a mitzvah, lahaidas Lashem, to praise God for everything that we have. So just like we praise Him for sight, we praise Him for our body movement, we praise Him for not having backache, we praise Him for everything else. We're now going to start praising Him for food. And here's where the kitchen comes into play. And that's one of the most important basic things in a traditional observant home is the kitchen. Because we spend a lot of time in the kitchen if you're Jewish. Right? We know everything is connected to food. Now, I want to talk a little bit, change courses to talk about the laws of kosher. Okay? Now, we're not going to be able to get through everything in here, so please bear with me. But I just want to give you a little bit of practical guidance to how a Jewish home functions in a kitchen. Okay? In the Bible, if you look back in the Bible, I just want to say, if there's any questions, please feel free to interrupt at any time over here. I mean, this is not a soliloquy here. This is a class where we want to learn. So if there's anything I said that's bothersome or questionable or not understandable, please don't be shy. In the Bible, it tells us that there are certain animals that are kosher, certain animals that are not kosher. Okay? That deals primarily with all the animals that we eat. Chicken, kosher. Fish, some yes, some no. Lamb, kosher. Beef, kosher. Pig, unfortunately, not kosher. Sorry. So for those that like bacon or ham or pork, no. So if you're watching any of those shows, on the cooking channel, and they're making pork chops, what you have to do as a Jew is say, no, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to substitute that for lamb chops or veal chops or whatever. And of course, the veal, the lamb, and the chicken have to be kosher. Which we're not going to get into how you kosher them because that's not your business. What you're going to do is going to go to the supermarket and look for kosher food. Okay? What about something else? Let's talk about grains. All grains are kosher except if they're cooked with non-kosher meat or cooked in non-kosher utensils. What do I mean by non-kosher utensils? I mean any utensil that had within it something that was cooked that was not kosher renders that utensil not kosher. So if you had a great frying pan and like before you came to this class, fried some pork chops, I'm sorry to say, that frying pan is not kosher. Not kosher. Okay? Go ahead. Yes. Pans can become kosher. It all depends upon what it's made of. And I'll get into that in just a moment. Okay? Now, so we know there are certain things that are going to be kosher that we're going to bring into our kitchen. There are things that are going to be non-kosher that we're not going to bring into our kitchen. Also, this is where the kicker comes in. 3 times in the Bible, 3 times it says, "Thou shalt not cook a kid in its mother's milk." Now let me repeat that again. Thou shalt not cook a kid, which is a little baby goat, in its mother's milk. What does that mean? Meaning that there's a prohibition against eating milk and meat together. Now, until this moment, it would have been fairly simple. Because, hey, if you don't bring in any pork, or you don't bring any shellfish, you don't bring any lobster, you don't bring anything that's not kosher in the kitchen, no problem. The problems become now that we're allowed to bring in a salami, there's kosher salami, as well as we're allowed to bring in cottage cheese, because there is cottage cheese. But you cannot cook your salami with the cottage cheese. You cannot have a soup that is made with chicken, and you're going to put in like a dairy broth to it, or something like that, what you see on the cooking channels. Milk and meat is completely separate. And here's where most of the problems trick us in our kitchen. It's not the pork. It's not the shellfish. No one goes to a supermarket looking for lamb and brings home pork. No, that doesn't happen. Okay, no one goes to the supermarket looking for salmon and walks home with a lobster. A lobster does not look like salmon. Salmon does not look like a lobster. Tuna is not shrimp. Shrimp is not tuna. You could forget about it. But there is now, because Orthodox Jews have a want and a will to eat what everybody else wants to eat, they want shrimp. Okay? Because you look up there and you see shrimp and everybody's eating shrimp. We want shrimp. We want shrimp. So thank God there is what we call tofu. And there is what we call other kinds of fish that you go now to the kosher markets and they will have kosher tofu shrimp or kosher pollock shrimp or all of those things. Now, I tried that. I've never tried shrimp. I don't think it's shrimp. It's not shrimp. Okay? It's tofu. Okay? Now, Jews want to have a cheeseburger. Can you have a cheeseburger? No? Are you allowed to eat a cheeseburger? No. No cheeseburger. What do? Veggie burger. So thank God we have tofu. So you put a veggie burger and you put some cheese on the veggie burger. I'm sorry to say it's not a cheeseburger. It's a tofu burger. Okay, so you know what? Now, so we're going to trick it. We're going to get a real hamburger, but we're going to make parcheesi. Okay? There's a thing called parcheesi, which is parv cheese. It's tofu cheese. It looks yellow. It looks like American cheese. It smells like American cheese. But ladies and gentlemen, it's not cheese. Okay? So forget it. There's no way around it. You're not eating. But I need bacon, please. I want to have Canadian bacon. So they came up with Bako Bits. Bako Bits are, again, tofu that look like little bacon bits. They're not bacon. Okay? That's the way it is. Finished. End of discussion. But the problem is, this is where 90% of our downfall is going to be in the kitchen. It's going to be the separation of the milk and meat utensils. Because there's one word that kills everything, and that is called heat. Heat is what transfers one thing to another thing. See, cold is not so bad. So even if, God forbid, you, let's say, stirred not your coffee, but let's say you had a cold glass of milk and you stirred it with a non-dairy spoon that you used to eat your chicken soup, not gefährlich. You could wash it down and do it. But if you stirred your coffee with a non-dairy spoon, problems. Why? Because heat is transferable. It takes the property from one and transfers it to something else. So if you're cooking a soup, okay, and you have a coffee, and it's a chicken soup, and you're drinking a coffee with milk in it, and someone bumps your hand, and the coffee ends up in the chicken soup, problems. Why? Because that's heat, and it gets together, and there's milk and meat together, the soup is not kosher. But you don't have to throw out the soup right away. There are things that you could do to save the soup, but we're not going to get into these technical things right now. So why? Because there's laws because of milk and meat are vast. They're vast. Just to give you an example, if there's 60 times more soup than there is milk, you're okay. No problem. It's called batel b'shishim. It becomes nullified in the 1/60th. So if you have a little bit of milk in a coffee, and you have a big pot of soup, and you pour, and it mistakenly, not that you poured it in intentionally. Intentionally, you could never do that. But mistaken, it fell in, you're okay. You don't have to worry. Because the soup is still kosher, because the little bit of milk becomes nullified in the big pot. Okay? Right. Okay. So, how does a Jew's kitchen look like? So, you walk into a kitchen in a traditional home, and this very practical stuff, we're not getting into theological, why this is no good or why you can't eat this. I'm talking practically 2 sets of dishes. Okay? You have 2 sets of dishes. On one side of the kitchen is the milk side, on the other side of the kitchen is the meat side. And to help you remember, there are stickers that say meat, and there are stickers that say milk. And you put them on each side of the kitchen, And the two shall not meet. So if you're cooking milchik, if you're doing dairy, you'll have only your dairy dishes out. Finish with the dairy, wash them in a sink, use a sponge that is dedicated to dairy. So you got your blue sponge for the blue dishes. You wash it, put away the sponge, put away the dishes, then bring out your red dishes, which are the meat dishes. Cook all your food in that way. Put away the pots, put away the things, clean everything up, because if, God forbid, they come into contact, you got problems. So you have two sets of dishes. You got the blue for the, okay? Can you hear me? All right. So you got the blue dishes on the one side. You could come over here. You don't have to worry. Why? You won't get into the camera. Come on up. You're all right. Don't worry. Your mother wants to make sure that you listen to everything. All right. There you go. So what happens is, so in a house, very practical. You get yourself, or you want to. Some people are vegetarians. Makes life a lot easier in a kitchen, a lot easier, because then you solve yourself 90% of the problem. Because what's going to happen is, invariably, someone's going to come over to the house, and he's going to come into your kitchen, and he's going to stir the coffee with no, don't do that. And like in slow motion, you want to dive and grab the spoon in their hand and slide across the counter, not to let them put that milk, that dairy, that meat spoon in a milk-soaked coffee. You don't want to. You want to avoid that. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. You're going to do it. We have people who wash our dishes for us. We have maids that come into the house to clean. By themselves, they're going to make mistakes. There's carne. You know what carne is? That's meat. Leche is, I know those two things. Leche, carne. Okay? You get those things down. But it's inevitable. What do? Don't freak out. Don't get nervous. Put it aside. What if it's a spoon or a knife or a fork, whatever it's going to be, and just leave it there. Because at some point, that drawer is going to fill up with all non-kosher utensils. And once a year, you're going to boil up a big pot and take all of those forks and knives and put it into the pot, and that koshers it all. Okay? That makes it what? That's all. For utensils. For utensils are very easy to kosher. Very easy. If they're made out of metal. Yeah, metal. But if it's wood, it's different. But I'm talking about metal utensils that you just drop into the pot, you let it boil up a little bit, leave it in there for about 10 minutes, you close the pot, pour out the water, your utensils are back to kosher. Okay? Not a problem. Knives, whatever you need. If the handle is made out of some other kind of material, some things can't be koshered. Earthenware, for example, can't be koshered. Rubber generally can't be kosher. Wood is difficult to kosher. So sometimes you're better off just dumping it and but if you don't want to, you don't have to. Okay? Now, when you're in the process and you're just learning about these things, or you're getting ready to do it, and it's going to take a long time for us to get used to it, because you know what, if you're not used to, if you haven't grown up with it, people just automatically, you might have a chicken sandwich and you like a milkshake with the chicken sandwich. You're not thinking about, I just remembered last week I decided to keep kosher, okay, and now I got myself this milkshake with the chicken sandwich. Don't freak out, take it easy. Relax. Just make sure if it wasn't hot, there's not transferred, then you could wash the dishes, and do all of that stuff, put everything back in its proper place, and you got yourself back to a kosher kitchen. If, unfortunately, you did cook something, with meat or whatever it is, and you make mistakes, you use a spatula, let's say to stir up some eggs, whatever you're cooking, and it's a meat spatula, and you're making yourself a cheese omelet, okay, you put away this meat spatula, and you just got to be careful. So therefore, you walk into a Jew's home, or a traditional Jew's home, the kitchen looks like two families live there. Because normally, who does this? No, two families are living there. The meat family on the right side of the kitchen, the dairy family on the left side of the kitchen, and the two don't meet. Now, many people try to the best of their ability to get two sinks. Why? Because it's easier that way. Because then you could wash your stuff in one sink, you could wash your stuff in the other. If you don't want to bother with it, we have two sinks, but we don't bother with trying to keep each sink separate, because that's be too difficult. What we do is you use strainers, or you use those, what do you put it in the, Dishpans, thank you very much. You use dishpans, strainers, whatever it is. Blue for dairy, red for meat. You could use red for dairy and blue for meat. I'm not saying anything, but it should be two colors that you remember, right? It shouldn't be like one is blue and one is navy blue. All right? Now you don't want to do that. That just confuses you and that'll confuse your visitors. You use two colors that are very discernible, very easy to tell apart. Even in the middle of the night, you put them away and you're okay. Now, how does one start doing this? Because this is really a practical course, and we're not talking about theory. What do you do? So today I want everybody to go home. Now, if you're keeping a kosher home already, God bless you. If you're not keeping a kosher home, I want you to take a look at all the dishes you have and all of the pots and pans that you have and everything that you have in all the dishwashers, and think to yourself that many of the things that you have right now are not going to be able to be kashered. You know, I mean, and when the time comes, you get yourself a rabbi, comes over to your house, tells you yes, no, no, yes, no, no, yes, 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 no, never in a million years. Possibly if you can. If it's too expensive, maybe we can make a deal. You know, I mean, no, I'm just on that one. Okay, I'm not joking. But the thing is, but you know, all of these things are your decision when you actually decide to make a kosher home, and then you have literally two lives that you're going to lead. Then you're going to have to be careful, because everything that you buy in the supermarket, everything that you're going to do is governed by those little symbols that you see. They'll use the OKs, the ChavKs, the MKs, the CORs, the CRC, the NK, the star K, the triangle K. All of these things are symbols. Don't try to memorize them, because there's 570 different symbols around the world that give supervising, that are supervising kosher products. The big ones to remember are the OU, the OK, the national ones. And you're going to train yourself that when you go into a supermarket, you're just not going to buy your regular potato chips. You're going to buy the potato chips and look like you're a freak out of nature, because you're going to sit there for 15 minutes looking for that OK to your favorite jalapeno potato chips. And guess what? You're not going to find one, because it's very hard to get kosher jalapeno potato chips, because they make it with cheese or whatever it is, it's going on. And generally, we don't. No, go ahead, Corliss.
Potatoes are vegetables, so
Yeah,
they not be kosher?
No, the potatoes themselves are not a problem. It's the flavoring that goes into it.
So
See, no, if you just took a potato and cooked it, not a problem. If you took a potato and cooked it with non-kosher cheese, like blue cheese, or whatever kind of flavors they make out there, cream cheese, they have the Pringles, cream cheese Pringles, no good, because the cream cheese is not kosher. The potato itself is okay, but the cream cheese is not kosher.
So there's kosher cheese?
Yes. So if you want, let's say, nachos, okay, if you really, really want the nachos, you'd have to get yourself kosher cheese, kosher, those yellow chips, which you find all around the place. Get yourself some kosher salsa, put the potato chips on the bottom, cheese, salsa, you fry them in your kosher microwave, which you're going to use only for dairy. You're not going to be able to use it now to heat up your frozen hamburger with, because you've just used it now with cheese. So that microwave is now dedicated to the blue side of the kitchen. Now, what happens if you want to now, oh my gosh, you know what? I really would like to warm up. I have in the freezer this chicken pot pie, and I would love to, put it in the microwave. Can you put it in the microwave? No. Why? Because you've just cooked cheese, right? Now, what are you going to do if you do that? You forgot. You said, oh, you know what? I made cheese, and then you put a chicken pot pie in there in your microwave. You can kosher a microwave. Don't worry about it. You take a glass of water, fill it up, put it in the microwave. Put it on high for 5 minutes, let it cook it out, and you've just koshered your microwave. Okay? But you got to make sure it's clean. If there's still, pieces of your chicken still in the microwave, doesn't help it. I don't care if you put it for 10 minutes, it's got to be clean. So now you're going to you're now going to walk through the supermarket looking like you're just came out of an insane asylum, because every step of the way you're going to start reading the ingredients. You're going to be there from 9 o'clock in the morning till closing time, trying to figure out Is this bread kosher? Is this bread not kosher? Is this bread good? Are these bagels kosher? Okay, I got through line 1. Now what about I want to buy peanut butter? Can I buy peanut butter? Can I buy jelly? Jelly's a problem because there's grape jelly. Grapes is generally not kosher because grapes have to do with wine. And once they squeeze it, don't ask. Okay? So you got to look for that OK, Chaf K, triangle K, all of these things. And you're just only halfway through one aisle in Vons, which is 22 aisles long. And it's already taken you a half an hour. The process will speed up, but this is the way you're going to train yourself how to run a practical kosher kitchen by only buying. Now, there's going to be different kind of symbols, like an OUD. What's an OUD? The rabbi didn't go through with it, didn't tell us. Now, we know now that OUD means dairy. So you're going to buy that. What are you going to do with that? What are you not going to do with that? You are not going to make a bologna sandwich with that bread, right? Why? Because you're not supposed to eat milk and meat together, but you're going to forget. So what are you going to do? What? Put it in the microwave for 5 minutes so you burn out all the cheese? No, you can't do that. You can't do that. You take the sandwich and you discard it, okay? And you make another sandwich from the OU non-dairy bread with the bologna. Okay? Because once you've made the sandwich, you can't eat that because it's got milk and meat together. So you discard it or give it to your neighbor or whatever it is, feed your cat, whatever you want to do with that sandwich, but you're not eating that. Okay? You're not eating it. There are certain things, go ahead, Susanna.
Yeah, this one is never explained, the OUD, because it's supposed to be color of Israel if it's cheese. So how in the world does it get the OU on it if it has dairy?
Okay.
But that's called
that has nothing to do with Chal of Israel. Okay. We're not dealing with that tonight.
So
That's
Chal of Israel.
the cannot Chal of Israel. OUD is not Chal of Israel.
So I don't know how it gets OU on it.
What do you mean? It doesn't have to be Chal of Israel.
Well, if it's kosher, it's kosher, and if it's not Chal of Israel, cheese.
Any type of milk today,
cheese.
any type of milk today is kosher. You can go buy any milk, any place, in any supermarket. You could buy milk. It's all kosher. It's automatically kosher. But what Shoshana brought up is a good point. It's a technical point. Okay? Not for beginners. I would not advise beginners to do this. There is a higher, in kosher you will find there's gradations. Some people keep this, some people keep that, some people do that, some people that. There is this thing called Chol of Israel, meaning that this is milk that is supervised from the moment the cow is milked. That's just a higher level of kashrut. It does not refer to any of the milk in Vons. The milk in Vons is not Chol of Israel. The cheeses are not Chol of Israel. Now, most hard cheeses, I'll tell you, are not going to be able. You're not going to get kosher because they're made with rennet. Soft cheeses, not a problem. So if you want to buy cottage cheese or all of that stuff, sour cream, I'm thinking, what do you put on the bread? Cream cheese. Thank you very much. Cream cheese, no problem. You want? I beg your pardon? Yogurt, not a problem. You'll find many of them with the OUD. Many OUD. The problem you're gonna be looking to is the hard cheeses. The hard cheeses, American cheese, Munster cheese, all of those cheeses are made with rennet. You're not going to find them here. You'll have to find them. So don't worry about the Chol of Israel part. I mean, if you find something OUD, I would go for it. Later on, if you say, hey, you know what, I want to be more careful, you cut out OUD. But for right now, don't worry. Go for the OUD, go for anything that says DE, that's dairy equipment, that's another level of people that worry about that was made on dairy equipment. Don't worry about that. If it has the symbol of kosher, you're okay with it. Just be careful, because generally in traditional bakeries, like kosher bakeries, they never made dairy bread. Why? Because practically speaking, you're not going to be able to separate everything. You're not going to remember, okay, is this bread dairy? Can I make a salami sandwich? Can I make a turkey sandwich? What am I going to do? So therefore, in bakeries, the general rule was never to make any dairy bread. All breads are what we call pariv. Now, pariv, many of you probably know, means neutral. It's not dairy, it's not meat. Give me an example of what something pariv is.
Fish.
Thank you very much. Fish is a good but a bad example. I'll tell you why. Fish is a good and a bad example. Fish is pariv, but you can't eat it with meat. Okay? Because there's all these things. Fish is good, but you have to eat it separately from meat. Another one best example is all vegetables. Fruits, vegetables, grains. Anything that comes from the ground is all pariv. You can eat grains with meat. You can eat grains with cheese. You can eat an apple with your salami sandwich. You can eat an apple with your parmesan, whatever that's called. You know what I'm talking about. Eggplant parmesan. Okay? No problem. Another thing, eggs. Neutral. Okay? Soda, neutral. Bread, neutral. Cake, neutral. Except if it's a cheese Danish, then it's not neutral. All of these things. So when you come home, you set yourself up, beans in one place. Now you got to be careful with beans because beans have pork and beans. So you want to make sure you don't bring home the Heinz pork and beans. You want to bring home the kosher beans, Bush's beans, or Heinz beans, or whatever it is with the symbol. Now there are things that don't need a symbol. For example, fresh fruit. Don't go looking for an OU on the bananas. Okay? Don't be looking for an OU on the cauliflower. All fruits and vegetables are automatically kosher. Now there are other things that don't need a supervision, which we know that there are kosher, but from our part right now, look for the supervision. Always stick to the supervision. Yes, Shoshana?
Plastic bottles of water, even small.
Plastic bottles of water, I would not worry about the OU.
Why did they put a kosher?
I'll tell you why they put an OU, because some rabbi, in his wisdom, went to Arrowhead or whatever company and convinced them that you are going to increase sales by putting an OU on there. Well, I wouldn't worry about it. Just like I don't worry about an OU on Coca-Cola. You know why I don't worry about an OU on Coca-Cola? Because there isn't any. Okay? There is no OU on Pepsi. You don't got to worry. There's no OU. Now, grape flavor is different. And grape, let me get into it just for a moment. Wine has to be kosher. Okay? Now, generally, wine, if Manischewitz, Herzog, whatever wine you're drinking, there's plenty of good wines these days. Big restriction. There's a big problem with wine. Why? In the olden days, wine was used as part of the service in pagan temples. Okay? So think about that for a second. Part of the service that pagans did in their temples was they poured wine at their altars. The rabbis then, in response to the wine being used as a sacrifice, forbid any Gentile wine. Not only wine that was actually used, any wine that a Gentile has is not kosher. And that extends not only to wine, but any grape product. So grape juice, no good. Grape soda, no good. Grape jelly, also no good, unless it has a hechsher, unless it has the OU. So for example, we use kedem here for grape juice. Can I go, oh my gosh, Friday night dinner, we forgot our grape juice, we run down to Vaughn's, can I buy Welch's grape juice? No, no good. Why? Because it took on a much stricter. Now apple juice is very different. Apple juice I could go and I'm not going to be so worried. I will still look for the symbol, but it's not as difficult as grapes, because grapes has that connotation of if it was squeezed or manufactured or done something with it, automatically it's no good. All right? So that's just something to remember in general. Now if you pour your non-kosher wine in a goblet, you're going to have to kosher the goblet. Glasses is a little different, because glass, really, you don't have to really kosher. You can wash out glass because you generally don't really use it for hot or whatever it is. And there are some people also that don't even have two sets of glasses. They use glasses both for milk and both for meat. What they do is very carefully wash it out, because if there's still some residue of the milk, you're not going to eat your turkey sandwich with that. Yeah. All right, listen, the laws of kosher are vast from one end of this room to the other end of this room. We can go through still. My son Moshe is now practicing and he's studying to get his rabbinical degree. So he just finished his first of 4-part test. He told me it was a 33-page exam that he had to go through on exactly this, taruvas, things that got mixed together. What if things got mixed up? What do you have to do? What do you have, deal? You have, if there's a doubt, if you find a piece of meat in the street and there's a kosher butcher shop and there's a non-kosher butcher shop, what do? Do you say, hey, this meat came from the butcher shop? So there's all rules and regulations that rabbis have to make a decision. And it's not for someone's own personal life, but right now, he told me he finished, and yesterday he started on the second set, which is dealing with basar b'chalav. All the issues of when the milk and meat come together in a kitchen. What do you have to do? When does it become nullified? When does it not become nullified? All of that stuff. Now, so therefore it's going to be impossible for us to go through all of the kosher laws, but if there's any questions concerning a kitchen itself, please ask, because this is one of the most important practical things that we could talk about within Judaism. Go ahead.
What about old glass? That you don't know where it's been, you don't know how it's used, can you kosher that for?
Glass generally cannot be koshered, but glass is pretty much a thing that people are very lenient on. Now, I would not, if I was starting a brand new kitchen and someone donated glasses to me, I would not use them. I would not use them. Not so much like, listen, if I was in dire straits, I had no money, I would use the glasses versus other utensils, but better, if a person's going to start off, better to start fresh. It's always best to start fresh. But glass is one of those utensils which we're very, very lenient on.
Old glasses.
What if they really need old glasses?
They're wonderful.
I would put them up there for show's sake. For show's sake, I would, if you have nothing else to drink from except those, but generally if you're going to start a new kitchen, you want to get it right. Why spend all this money and all this energy and all this effort and then find out that the glasses were used, in some who knows fashion that you don't know, and why do you want to do that? Why do you want to do that? Remember, the kashrus that we keep is very much connected to our souls. So it's not only that we're keeping kosher for the sake of keeping kosher, but the more that we keep kosher, the more refined our soul becomes, and the more that we're apt to open up those airways, the blessings of God flow through. Now this is again part of all this idea of being disciplined, of being restricted. Why did you think they came up with the kosher laws? Think about it for a second. Why do you think they came up? God made kosher laws. You think there's any difference between pork and a cow? We know what the difference is? The difference is God wanted to keep us outside of the general public. That's all he wanted to. So if a Gentile calls you to eat supper, what do you got to say? Can't go. Why? It's not kosher. So what does that force you to do? Forces you to eat in the house. Forces you to stay separate from the rest of the world. Forces you to do what? To live amongst yourselves. Right? Live almost in a ghetto style. The first ghettos were self-imposed. Ghettos were not imposed upon the Jewish people. Historically, Jews always lived together because why? Because besides the laws of Shabbos, which were made, I don't know if we'll get it to tonight, but because I want to invite you, you come to mine, so I go to your house. We want to live in proximity. If you live down in LA and I live here, it doesn't make any sense. So therefore, God wanted to separate us from the rest of the world. Why? Because it's very challenging. If you're a one Jew living in a place where there's no other kosher people, you know what happens? It's very hard. And everybody keeps inviting you, and everybody says, come to the house. We'll only serve fish, we'll only serve vegetables, back and forth. Well, God wanted us to keep separate. Go ahead.
Can you invite them over to your
Oh, absolutely. That's no problem. Inviting them to come over as long as they don't bring anything. So like people, here in Shul, we have a policy, no one brings any food into the Shul. People have asked me, what can we bring, Rabbi? I say nothing. You can't bring, I should say anything, really. You can't bring anything because we're a kosher establishment, and I don't know where this is from, but my house is kosher. Do I know if your house is kosher? You might think your house is kosher, but it's not really kosher. So therefore we have a policy, but inviting people into your house, absolutely. As long as you make sure they don't bring anything. If they want to bring some soda, no problem. If they want to bring vegetables, raw vegetables, no problem. But anything cooked in their house, you can't use. So that's kind of a barrier. We're setting up a barrier. Just like, when I get invited out all the time for dinners. Hey, Rabbi, can we take you out to dinner? No. Shucks. Rabbi, you want to come for lunch? No. Or if I do go, I have to sit there with a glass of water. Or, like a soda. You know what? It becomes very uncomfortable, and people start asking me to go with them because they don't want. So what it does, it causes a barrier between us and the rest of the world, because God wants us to be able to keep the kosher laws, and it's very hard if we're scattered around. Are there any other? Okay, Shoshana, and then we'll take Lorelei. Go ahead, Shoshana.
There's something about having non-Jews in the home, something about either they touch the food or in the refrigerator, they shouldn't be. Of course, you have people who they hire who do helping with cooking and.
There is a thing, yes. There is a thing that's called bishul akum. Food that is cooked by a Gentile, even if it's kosher. So there's various degrees in how many people keep that. I wouldn't worry about that at this point right now. I mean, most people, for example, in a traditional home, even if they have a maid that does the cooking for them, will open up the oven for them. They won't have her open up the oven. They'll do that in order for it not to be cooked by a Gentile. But let's not worry about that at this particular time right now, because this is stage number 2, of keeping kosher. As long as the ingredients are kosher, we're okay for tonight. Lorelei.
I have 2 questions.
Go ahead.
One is, if you do have meat and milk in a home, you have to have 2 refrigerators and 2 pantries?
That's a very good question. Excellent. No.
Okay.
You do not. You could keep everything
So
in the refrigerator.
The salami and the cheese on the same shelf?
Yes.
As long as
Yes.
they're probably not kissing.
As long as they're not kissing and they're not eyeing each other.
Right.
Okay? As long as they're wrapped properly,
Wrapped.
no problem. You don't have to worry about it in a cupboard. You could keep everything. The problem is when they come together
In heat?
in heat.
Okay.
Or they come together even in cold. You can't have a salami. And I don't want you to think that you could not eat a salami sandwich with a cold glass of milk. Can't do that. No. But the problem becomes when you cook them together. That renders the utensils not kosher. But you still can't eat milk and meat even in one meal.
What's the time you have to allow after a meat meal?
That's a very good question.
And vice versa.
That's a very good question. Very good question. This depends upon various customs. The easiest one probably to remember is the 6-hour rule. If you ate meat, you wait 6 hours before you eat dairy. Okay? 6 hours before you eat dairy. So if you've had a turkey sandwich, or if you've eaten turkey, or if you're eating a steak, it's 6 hours before you can have a glass of milk or pizza. Dairy is a little bit different. Here's where customs come into play. Some people have a custom that if you drank a glass of milk, just wash out your mouth and go ahead for the turkey sandwich. Just rinse it out. Because it all has to do with the digestive. Since you ate meat, it takes more of a time to digest, whatever it is, 6 hours. Milk to meat varies. Some say half hour, some say an hour, some say 6 hours if you've eaten a really hard cheese. Like you've eaten some of these really, really dense cheeses, or some like a brie, or something like that, wait to 6 hours. But most people today it's either half an hour or an hour, not more than that. So if you had like a cheese Danish and then you want to eat your main course, wait for a half an hour, or if you want to wait for an hour and then go ahead. That's what you have to. That's what you have to do. So it's 6 hours meat to milk, an hour from milk to meat. All right. I guess, of course, some rabbis are going to say, hey, if you eat pizza, it's 6 hours. But, for now, we'll leave it at an hour. Next semester, we'll kick it up a half an hour every semester. Lorelei.
Okay, so second question, and hopefully my last one.
No. Go ahead, because this takes a long time.
I am a fishitarian. I don't have any meat at all in my house, and the only fish I have in my house is kosher fish. So,
okay, good.
Like no shellfish, right?
Good.
But now, of course, I thought I was doing really good until I started hearing you telling all this stuff. So it looks like cheese is a problem, and that I need to check out.
No. Oh yeah, cheese is a problem, yes.
So, but if you're a vegetarian and you just eat fish, then the real danger zones there are things like cheese and
Correct.
wine.
Correct.
Okay, those
cheese and wine are big danger zones.
Okay.
Huge danger zones. But if you're a strict vegetarian with no cheese or no fish, you're just eating like grains, you got no problem. And I think really, probably I would say, the initial intent was the way Adam ate. And that is grains and fruits and whatever else came out of the ground. And all of the other stuff was given to Noah after the flood, where he was permitted to eat meat and all of those things. But so if you want to be very careful, cut out meat, because meat is the hardest. Meat is the hardest. You have to find kosher meat, and you have to cook it in a special thing. And if you cook it in your broiler, you have to dedicate that broiler to meat, and your oven has to be dedicated to meat. And so Orthodox Jews have 2 ovens: our top oven, which is dairy; our bottom oven, which is meat. And you can't ever fool around. That's like, now what about the burners on the stove? Do you have to have separate burners for milk and meat? The answer is no. You could put your pan on this, you could put your pan on this. Now, if the burners got treif, if let's say you forgot something, or someone came to your house and did you a big favor and made a souffle with the cheese and put it in your meat oven, so then you got to come with the blowtorch and the this and the that, it becomes a big ado. It becomes a big ado. So just be careful.
Talmud, the snake oven, is that what that's all about?
The snake oven?
Yeah, the kosher snake oven, wasn't that the discussion in the Talmud?
Yes, that there was, yes, exactly. Go ahead, Shoshana.
I got one kind of oven, or a new one or something, that I heard that, you get these different ones, like, that lock, and they cook at a high temperature.
Self-cleaning.
Kosher it. And
Self-cleaning oven.
Huh?
Yes, self-cleaning oven.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could do that. If you have a self-cleaning oven, you got nothing to, you could do that. If it rises up to a certain temperature. So, you close it, clean it, close it, burn it, you do all of that stuff.
212 or
What?
Temperature, does it vary on the...
Oh, it's much higher than 212. Your oven is cooking, well, first of all, don't forget your oven is cooking at 500 degrees.
Right. Yeah, the dial.
You got the dial, you cook, some ovens go up to 550. That's, you're cooking a lot more than 212. But, you know what? If you're going to kosher your kitchen, if you make a decision that this is something you would like to do, that you'd like to keep kosher, you want to keep kosher, your best bet is to call me or to call Rabbi Levi or to call somebody else to come down, look at the house, see it, say, this is good, this is not good, this is good, this is not good, this is what you should be doing, this is what you shouldn't be doing. That's basic that.
So if you stay for dinner, no, it's good.
Very practical, David. Exactly. Now, once already we have all the kashrus down, even when the kitchen is kosher, there's still some things that we need to do. For example, we need to make a blessing before every food that we eat. You got to make a blessing. The blessings are in the prayer book. So, for example, if you're going to eat bread is the most the most important staple of a meal according to the Torah. So if you eat bread, anything else, don't worry about it. If you eat bread, you have to wash. You got to wash your hands. Now we talked about Natilas Yadayim. This is a little different. If you're going to wash for bread, you take the cup 1, 2, 3 versus the 1, 2, 3 in the morning. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now why did we do this? We do this because our hands are scuniest. Our hands have touched a lot of things during the day. We want clean hands to eat bread. Bread is the meal. You don't have to do it if you eat an apple. You don't have to do it if you eat a cucumber. You don't have to do it if you eat an ice cream. You don't have to do it if you drink a glass of milk. Only for bread. Okay? Now once you eat that bread, you don't have to make any other blessings during the meal. You do have to make a blessing for the hamotzi. Bread needs a blessing. And you look in the prayer book for the blessing. You make the hamotzi, eat the bread, and everything else afterwards, you're exempt from making a blessing. If you don't eat the bread, so you say, you know what? I'm going to go on an Atkins diet. Okay? So now I'm going to have cheese, and I'm going to have some other stuff that he allows, or whatever it does. Or forget about an Atkins diet. You have a number of different things you can eat during the meal. You have to, then there comes a hierarchy. Everything, let's say you're going to eat grains, pasta, bore mine mezonos, that goes first, because that's kind of the closest, that looks kind of in the bread. Grains, then you take vegetables, then you take fruit, then you take everything else, and you have to make a separate blessing for each thing. So in the morning, if you think that you're just going to get up there and going to slurp down breakfast and you're going to run away, sorry. I hate to break the news to you. You got to carry around your little pocket blessing maker and look up, okay, I'm going to have now cereal with milk. Oh my gosh, that becomes complicated. Because why? Because the cereal is one blessing and the milk is a separate blessing. But we're putting it together. So what do? Okay, so you look up in your little pocket rule book of what blessing I'm going to make, because the milk is really secondary to the cereal. So you make a borei min hamazonos and chomp away. Okay? Chomp away. Now you're going to eat an apple. You want an apple. I don't know. I have this craziness that I like to eat an apple with my meal, even if I'm eating a sandwich. You're going to make... No. Not if I'm eating with a sandwich. But if I'm not eating with a sandwich, if I'm just having a salad, then I'm going to make a borei priya eitz. If I'm having a glass of milk, a shakal nibad worry. If I do this, so there's blessings. So you have this little pamphlet that has all the blessings in there, and you want to eat a strawberry, there's a blessing. You want to eat a coconut bar, there's a blessing.